When we say space mission, we immediately think of rockets, astronauts, and scientific equipment. But did you know that there are also other weird things sent into space? They send these for science, while others are just for fun, as a tribute, or even for advertising. But how did they get there, and what strange things have they sent into space? That's what we're going to find out. Number 10, the sports car sent into deep space. When testing a new rocket, they usually don't put an expensive satellite on it right away. There's a high chance of problems during the first flight. Instead, engineers use something heavy but not valuable as a test payload. The goal is to test if the rocket can carry a large payload. And on February 6, 2018, SpaceX chose a unique test payload. Instead of a block of concrete or metal, they strapped in a real sports car. It was a red Tesla Roadster owned by Elon Musk. The rocket was the Falcon Heavy, a large rocket made up of 3 Falcon 9 rocket cores attached together. It has 27 engines that can produce over 5 million pounds of thrust while lifting off from the ground. At that time, it was the most powerful operational rocket in the world. However, they didn't just leave the vehicle empty. In the driver's seat, they placed a mannequin called Starman. It's wearing a SpaceX suit and sitting as if it's really driving in space. There's also a small message saying, "Don't panic," on the dashboard. This comes from the science fiction story, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. David Bowie's song Space Oddity is also saved on the sound system. But you really can't hear the song outside the car. There's no air in space, so sound waves have nothing to travel through. That was just added as an extra detail for the unique mission. The Falcon Heavy launched successfully. Its 2 side boosters landed simultaneously, but the center booster failed to land properly. Meanwhile, the Tesla Roadster continued its journey, still attached to the rocket's second stage. Cameras showed the vehicle with Earth in the background. It looked like a scene from a movie, but that was a real sports car outside our planet. It was not sent to land on Mars. After orbiting Earth, the rocket was fired again to place the vehicle in orbit around the sun. This means it's now like a small object in the solar system that continues to orbit our star. Its orbit stretches from near Earth's orbit to beyond Mars's orbit. There are also no plans to retrieve or bring back the vehicle. It will continue to travel while gradually being damaged by radiation, extreme temperature changes, and tiny particles in space. An ordinary car wasn't made to withstand these kinds of conditions. In fact, many people criticized what SpaceX did. For some, it was just an expensive advertisement for Tesla and Elon Musk. Some also said that scientific equipment could have been loaded onto the rocket instead, but it was only a test flight. It wasn't certain yet if the Falcon Heavy would work properly. That's why it was too risky to immediately put an important and expensive satellite on board. The Tesla also served as a real test payload. It was heavy enough to test the rocket's capability to carry cargo. But it wasn't just the rocket that was successful. The mission also captured the attention of a huge number of people. The red sports car with a mannequin in the driver's seat and Earth in the background became one of the most iconic images of modern spaceflight. It didn't lead to any new scientific discoveries, but it showed that it's not just government agencies that can carry out major space missions. Private companies like SpaceX now also have the capability to send heavy objects into space. That's why the Tesla Roadster isn't just a car that was launched as a joke. It also became a unique symbol of private companies entering a new era of space exploration. Number 9. The Lego figure sent to Jupiter. On August 5, 2011, NASA launched the Juno spacecraft to Jupiter. Its goal is to study the atmosphere, magnetic field, gravity, and interior of the largest planet in the solar system. But aside from scientific instruments, 3 small Lego figures were also included in the mission. The first is Jupiter, the Roman god holding a lightning bolt. The second is Juno, holding a magnifying glass as a symbol of searching for the truth. The third is Galileo Galilei, holding a telescope. He was the one who discovered the 4 largest moons of Jupiter in 1610. The figures are not made of ordinary plastic. They were made of aluminum to make them more durable, and they can withstand radiation and conditions in space. They were tightly attached to the body of the spacecraft, so they wouldn't come loose during the journey. They have no scientific function. They don't take pictures and they don't measure anything either. They were only included as part of an educational project by NASA and LEGO to encourage children to become interested in science and space. On July 4, 2016, Juno arrived at Jupiter after almost 5 years of travel. It still had the 3 small figures with it. While Juno orbits Jupiter and gathers important information, the 3 LEGO passengers quietly ride along. Even though they didn't contribute to science, they became a symbol of a simple way to make a complicated space mission exciting for children. Number 8. The gorilla that escaped in space. Imagine you're working at a space station hundreds of kilometers above the Earth. You're quietly floating in a module when suddenly a large storage bag opens. Then a gorilla comes out and starts chasing you inside the station. It looks like a scene from a comedy movie, but this actually happened on the International Space Station. In February 2016, NASA astronaut Scott Kelly was in the final stretch of his almost 1-year stay in space. He was part of an important mission studying the effects of long-term space habitation on the human body. This mission examined changes in his bones, muscles, vision, immune system, and other parts of his body. This research is important because scientists need to know if the human body can withstand long missions, such as traveling to Mars. While Scott was in space, his twin brother, Mark Kelly, sent him a unique birthday surprise. Mark is also a former astronaut. He sent a life-size gorilla costume. When it arrived at the station, Scott put on the costume. Afterwards, he hid inside a large storage bag. When the bag was opened, he suddenly jumped out and chased the British astronaut, Tim Peake, inside the station. Because their bodies were almost weightless, they didn't run like people do on Earth. They used their hands and feet to push their bodies along the walls and through narrow passageways. Tim floated as the gorilla chased him from one part of the station to another. According to NASA, Scott did this as part of some simple fun for his birthday. He also made some educational videos while wearing the costume. The funny video was short, but it quickly spread on the internet. Many people were delighted because they saw a different side of the astronauts' lives. Usually we see them conducting experiments, fixing machines, or talking to mission control. In the video, the public saw that they also know how to joke around and have fun. The gorilla costume had no scientific purpose. It wasn't used in any experiment, and it didn't fix any problems on the station. But that doesn't mean it had no value. Life is hard for astronauts in space. They are far from their families. For many months, their space is limited. Almost every day, their schedule is filled with experiments, maintenance, exercise, and medical checks. They also need to exercise regularly because muscles and bones weaken quickly when they haven't experienced normal gravity for a long time. Aside from physical fatigue, they may also feel stress, sadness, and boredom. That's why it's important to have time to laugh and rest. A simple joke helps lighten the mood of the crew and maintain their good relationship. This is important because they live and work in a small and dangerous place where they need to help each other every day. And the gorilla costume had another effect. More ordinary people became interested in the International Space Station. There are kids who might not watch long explanations about scientific experiments, but a gorilla floating in space can easily catch their attention. In a simple way, the video showed that astronauts are not just serious scientists wearing spacesuits. They're also normal people who get tired, have fun, and find ways to keep life from being lonely in a small space. So even though the gorilla costume didn't make any scientific discovery, it still showed something important. Even in one of the most advanced laboratories outside of Earth, people still need a simple laugh. And sometimes, all it takes is a gorilla costume to remind the whole world of that. Number 7, the pizza delivered to space. In 2001, Pizza Hut sent a real pizza to the International Space Station. It was reported that the company paid around $1 million to the Russian space program to make this unique delivery possible. The one who received and ate it was the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Usachov. The pizza that was sent was not an ordinary one. It needed to remain safe to eat even after a long journey in storage. It was about 6 inches in size. Salami was used as the topping because pepperoni did not last well for the required shelf life. They also increased the saltiness and spices because a person's sense of taste can weaken while in microgravity. The pizza was also carefully sealed to prevent it from spoiling and to keep crumbs from floating inside the station. It was loaded onto a Russian resupply spacecraft, along with other supplies. When it arrived at the station, Usachov ate it while being filmed on video. It's clear that this was a marketing stunt, but the plan was successful because news about the first pizza delivered to space quickly spread around the world. This wasn't a scientific experiment, but it showed that even space can now be used for this, for advertising and business. For Pizza Hut, this was a very expensive commercial. For the Russian space program, it was additional income. And for the cosmonaut who ate it, it was a simple pizza that first traveled by rocket before reaching his table. Number 6, the cheese that orbited Earth. On December 8, 2010, SpaceX conducted the first orbital test flight of the Dragon spacecraft. This mission was important because they needed to prove that the Dragon could reach orbit and safely return to Earth. Usually only a heavy test object is placed on this kind of flight, but instead of concrete or metal, SpaceX loaded a large wheel of Le Breuer cheese. This was a French cheese placed inside a metal container and kept hidden from the public. This was a reference to a Monty Python comedy sketch about a cheese shop that had no cheese to sell. The Dragon orbited the Earth twice before returning. After more than 3 hours in space, the capsule re-entered the atmosphere, deployed its parachutes, and landed in the Pacific Ocean. The test was successful. This was the first time a privately developed spacecraft was able to fly and return from orbit. Along with it, the unusual cheese payload also returned safely. The cheese had no scientific purpose, but it became a fun symbol of the first major success of the Dragon spacecraft. Number 5, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber goes to space. On October 23, 2007, a real lightsaber prop from Star Wars was brought aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. Mark Hamill used it as Luke Skywalker in the movie Return of the Jedi. It's very important to clarify this because it's not the lightsaber from the first Star Wars movie in 1977. As is often said online, it was sent as a celebration of the 30th anniversary of Star Wars. Before the launch, this was given by Peter Mayhew, the actor who played Chewbacca. At NASA, to prepare it for the journey, the prop was loaded onto mission STS-120, along with more important cargo, the Harmony module for the International Space Station, and the lightsaber stayed in orbit for almost 2 weeks. It was photographed at the space station before being brought back to Earth with the astronauts. It didn't conduct any scientific experiments, but it helped capture the interest of kids who love Star Wars and space. In the movie, the lightsaber is used in a galaxy far, far away, but this prop actually flew beyond Earth before safely returning. Number 4, Buzz Lightyear's long mission in space. In the movie Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear dreams of flying into space. On May 31, 2008, that actually happened to a Buzz Lightyear action figure. The toy was brought aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery to the International Space Station. It was part of an educational project by NASA and Disney to encourage children to learn about science and space exploration. This is not just a small toy. It is about 12 inches tall, almost the same size as a ruler. When it arrived at the space station, the astronauts showed how objects move in microgravity. Because everything is almost weightless, Buzz floats freely inside the station. He was also used in educational videos to explain to children the life and work of astronauts. The original plan was for him to stay there for only a few months, but because of changes in the space shuttle schedule, his stay in orbit lasted 468 days. That was longer than the typical single mission of many real astronauts. In September 2009, he was brought back to Earth aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. He stayed in space for more than a year before his extraordinary mission ended. Buzz had no scientific instruments, and he also had no direct contribution to the experiments. but he was able to make space exploration more fun and easier to understand for children. In the movie, he often says that he will go to infinity and beyond. Even though he didn't reach infinity, his action figure actually flew into space and orbited the Earth for more than a year. Number 3, the tiny creatures that crashed on the moon. On April 11, 2019, an Israeli spacecraft called Bereshit tried to land on the moon. It was supposed to be the first privately funded spacecraft to successfully land there. It reached the moon's orbit but encountered problems during descent. The spacecraft lost control and crashed onto the lunar surface. Among the items it carried was a small archive called the Lunar Library. It was made of very thin metal layers and contained a vast amount of information about history and human knowledge. Its purpose was to serve as a durable backup of information from Earth, but there was something else in the archive that most people didn't know about right away: thousands of tardigrades. Tardigrades are tiny animals, better known as water bears. They have 8 legs, and you need a microscope to see them clearly. They are known for being able to survive conditions that would kill most other animals. When there's a lack of water or the environment is harsh, their bodies dry out, and they enter a dormant state. Their normal activities almost completely stop while they wait for conditions to improve. This was the condition of the tardigrades that were included in the Bereshit spacecraft. They were dried out and placed in protective material along with the archive. Because the spacecraft crashed, it's unclear whether the archive is still intact or if the tardigrades survived. The creator of the Lunar Library said that it's possible some of them survived, but this hasn't been confirmed because no one has retrieved anything from or examined the crash site. Even if they are still intact, it doesn't mean they're crawling around on the moon right now. There's no liquid water and almost no atmosphere there. Even if they did survive, most likely they're just staying dry and dormant. They also can't reproduce or live normally without proper water, food, and environmental conditions. The incident became controversial because it wasn't clearly disclosed before the launch that there were tardigrades in the archive. This raised questions about the responsibility of space missions. Should bringing organisms from Earth to other worlds be allowed? And what if we accidentally contaminate a place that scientists are just about to study? We don't know if there are still intact tardigrades on the moon, but because of the crash of Bereshit, it's possible that thousands of dried water bears were left on the lunar surface, not as part of a successful experiment, but because of a mission that didn't land properly. Number 2, the astronomer who finally reached Pluto. In 1930, the young astronomer Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto. He was only 24 years old at that time and was working at the Lowell Observatory in Arizona. He repeatedly compared pictures of the sky. There, he noticed a small light moving, while the stars in the background stayed in the same position. That object was identified as Pluto. Back then, it was considered the 9th planet of the solar system. But in 2006, its classification was changed, and it was called a dwarf planet. Tombaugh passed away in 1997. After 9 years, NASA launched the New Horizons spacecraft for the first close-up study of Pluto. As a tribute, the mission team placed a small amount of Tombaugh's ashes in a tiny aluminum container attached to the spacecraft. His family agreed to this. The container says he was the American astronomer who discovered Pluto. It also mentions his family and his life as an astronomer, teacher, friend, and someone who loved to make people laugh. On July 14, 2015, New Horizons flew close to Pluto. Finally, it captured the first clear and detailed images of the world discovered by Tombaugh 85 years earlier. The mission showed that Pluto is not just a simple frozen rock. It has tall mountains made of water ice, a thin atmosphere, and a vast plain filled with frozen nitrogen. You can also see the famous heart-shaped region called Tombaugh Regio, named in his honor. New Horizons did not stop at Pluto. It continued on to the farther regions of the Kuiper Belt, still carrying Tombaugh's ashes. The man who discovered Pluto using only pictures of the sky also made it there, not as an astronaut, but as a small part of the spacecraft that first showed us what this world he discovered really looks like. Number 1, Earth's golden message to the universe. In 1977, NASA launched Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. The two spacecraft were made to study the distant planets of the solar system. Voyager 1 reached Jupiter and Saturn. Meanwhile, Voyager 2 also visited Uranus and Neptune. But aside from scientific instruments, there is something unique attached to each spacecraft: a golden record. It is a 12-inch copper record coated with gold. It also comes with a durable cover and simple instructions on how to play and read it. This was not made to help Voyager gather scientific data. It is a message from Earth for whoever might find it in the distant future. The team led by the astronomer Carl Sagan chose the items to include here. The record contains 115 images depicting humans, animals, plants, DNA, the human body, the solar system, cities, and daily life on Earth. The images inside are not actual printed photographs. The pictures were converted into signals. If these are read correctly, the black and white images can be reconstructed. It also contains greetings in 55 languages. These include languages used today as well as Akkadian, an ancient language from Mesopotamia. In the English greeting, you can hear children saying they made music. They are from planet Earth. There are also sounds from our world. There are sounds of rain, wind, thunder, birds, whale calls, heartbeat, laughter, and a mother's kiss to her child. Its purpose is to show what life sounds like on Earth. It also contains about 90 minutes of music from different cultures and eras. It includes classical music by Bach and Beethoven, traditional songs from different countries, and the rock and roll song Johnny B. Good by Chuck Berry. The possibility of it being found by intelligent life is very small. Space is vast, while the two Voyagers are very small, but that's not the only reason why the golden record was made. It's also a time capsule of our world. It shows what we look like, how we speak, what we hear, and what music is important to us. Right now, both Voyagers are traveling through interstellar space. They are farther than any other human-made objects, and they continue to move farther and farther away. With them are the golden records that may remain in space for a very long time. It's possible that no one will ever see or hear this message. But if someone does find it someday, they will know that once there was a small planet full of life, sound, language, and music. And from a very distant place in the universe, the simple message of the golden record seems to be just one thing. We are here. This is our world. And once we lived here.